in the chapter, I think what I was thinking of was um, I talk about Reza Aslan's book, God, A Human History. Um, and I read that book, and at the time of reading it, I was fairly impressed by it. I'm less so now after learning a bunch more stuff, but it's a substantive book, and he makes a detailed argument and backs it up with a bunch of evidence. Um, but I say in the chapter, let's just grant that he's right about absolutely everything. That like the idea of God and the impulse of religion evolved from nothing and just sort of came about, and people started off worshiping like crazy wizard spirits that they made up, and then tribal deities, and that somehow evolved into the idea of a universal creator, but it only did so because there were these Jewish people or Hebrews at the time who were super stubborn and didn't want to accept that their God had lost a battle. And so then that caused them to uh, theorize that he actually planned the loss because he was actually in charge of everything. Like that's a very quick, but essentially his argument. So let's say that's all true. Okay. But as we've looked at here, it seems to be the case, I would say it is the case, that life is infinite. God is the infinite source of all things, and God has all these properties that have been ascribed to him through uh, the Bible, especially Christian, Judeo-Christian tradition broadly. Well, okay, so we got to the idea of an infinite God through this ridiculously stupid, fumbling, fallible process, but we still made it to this miraculous idea of an infinite God and creator who's in charge of all things. So, like, does it really matter that we evolved there fallibly? Like we're there, so we don't have to go back to the beginning and start from zero and put everything together in a proper intellectually rigorous way. Like you can try that if you want to, but you don't need to worry about the fact that we came to this realization in this fallible way. Like either God's real or he's not. And as I hopefully have made a very strong case here, God is real. At least the infinite is definitely real. And I think that that's synonymous with God. So then, like, here we are in the midst of the infinite, and we've come to believe in the infinite, and people have been talking about it for centuries. And you're just going to look at that and be like, well, they didn't know what they were talking about. They're clearly talking about the infinite, and that's pretty crazy, and it's miraculous. If it all happened as haphazardly as that, that's just a giant miracle. Like, why? We don't need to be cynical about that. We could be like, wow, that's crazy. What a ridiculous path to take, but we're here
Right.
and we're here. So like let's just be here. Let's here we are. If you just
Yeah.
try to have a ridiculously skeptical conversation with someone at a party, like they're going to be annoyed. Like, well, are you really happy to see me, or are you happy because this your favorite song's playing and you don't really care for me? They're happy to see you. Like, move on. Um, Anyhow, that's a flippant example. But the point with God is that this this level of skepticism and doubting ourselves isn't useful because no matter what we do, we are depending on the reality of God to do it. So being skeptical of God is taking as a given that our consciousness is significant, that our skepticism is an appropriate way to approach the truth, that we have the purpose of approaching truth, that we have the ability to approach truth, our purpose, ability, and our significance is all built on the foundation of God. So there's no way to function where you don't take your own consciousness significantly. Even if you're listening to your unconscious tell you that you're not significant, that's taking your conscious significantly. Um, Believing in the meaning of your life and the purpose in your life. even if you try to argue against those and do things opposed to those, you're doing those things because you've had an intellectual decision to take the story seriously that you're not. Anyhow, the point being, the existence of God in your relationship, your true relationship to him is a given. And so, and it's an inescapable given. So having this whole weird, convoluted trip of being skeptical about it doesn't actually do you any good because you never escape it and it never changes. So you might need to be convinced of that intellectually, as I was, and I'm all for that. But you don't have to go around and proselytize other people into wasting their time and spinning in needless mental circles
Right.
in this specific case.